we're seeing so much apostasy in the church, so many misguided people who say we're in the tribulation now and that this and that is the mark of the beast. And like, no. The 7-year tribulation is about God and his relationship with the Jews and Israel. It's not about us, the church. We belong to Jesus. We are sealed in Jesus. He's going to remove us so God can deal with the Israelis and the Jewish people. Israel and the Jews. That's what the 7-year tribulation is about.
And what's very interesting too, in the book of Romans, I mean, Romans is Paul's magnus opus, if you will. It's his tome on theology and doctrine. But what he covers in that great book, one of the things he says, Tom, is the fact that we who are Gentiles, he says, keep in mind that you guys were grafted in this thing. I mean, you came on board in chapter 45 kind of thing. You weren't originally a part from a human perspective, this promise, to Abraham and the Jewish people, this covenant God made with him, you were grafted in. He says, don't negate the Jews, is what he's saying, because God's going to return. They're on the back burner right now as a nation, but he says God's going to return, put them on the front burner. He's going to take the church out of the way to heaven so that he can then turn his attention back to Israel. Back to Israel. And as our good friend Andy Woods pointed out one time at a conference, he said, if you'll take your Bible and go to Genesis 12 and then put a mark there and then go over to Acts chapter 2 and then look at how thick that section is from Genesis 12 to Acts 2, he says, that's God's focus on the Jewish people.
That is great.
And the rest of it is Gentile, grafted in. So it's like, it's unavoidable just how, Israeli-centric really the Bible is. And that's a part of that passage you just read.
That's just a great illustration.
People always think it's about the rapture. It's about what happens to the Jews during the tribulation. We're not here. We weren't here for the first 69 weeks of Daniel, and we won't be here for the 70th week of Daniel. And to think we're going to be here, you're trying to rob God of being able to do what he's going to do during the 7 years, and he ain't going to do that. And that's fix the relationship with the Jews. Get them to realize who the Messiah truly was. We're not here for the 7-year tribulation. You belong to Jesus. If you don't belong to Jesus, I can't give you any good news. I'm sorry, but I can't. If you don't belong to Jesus, or you're rejecting Jesus, you're in for the worst 7 years that you could ever imagine. You can look at Marvel movies, you can look at fantasy novels, you can look at the worst history of wars. I don't care where you point, you can look at the most disastrous anything, and nothing will compare to the 7 years that are about to happen on this earth. Nothing will compare to it. It'll be the worst 7 years since man was created. So I can't give you hope if you don't know Jesus.